This episode of the Gooner Ramble is sponsored by the new sporting betting app called Bookie. That's Bookee. Sign up using the promo code podcast, deposit and bet £10 in multiple bets for a free £10 bet. Please bet responsibly.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Gooner Ramble podcast. I'm your host Giles, and joining me this afternoon we have our regular Akhil. How you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, very good. Still dry. Just wanted to make sure everyone knows.
Coming to the end now.
I'm nearly there.
Right,
I'm very excited.
You can catch Akhil at 10Akhil on Twitter. We've also got Dave. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, I'm very good, my friend. Very good.
Good stuff. You can catch Dave at Dave Gooner. Sorry, I've missed out your Twitter. What is your Twitter handle again? Gooner Dave 66, isn't it?
That's absolutely right, yes.
Absolutely right. And a special guest joining us for the first time. We have Nick Callow, a.k.a. Stroller Nick, on Twitter. How you doing, mate?
Afternoon. Very excited and delighted to be joining you on the pod.
Thank you very much, as we are too.
No one's ever been delighted to be joining us before, so this is
got to get where you can take these.
The payment went through then. Cool. All right. So key talking points, hot takes from the other night. We have what did you feel were the key points in beating to our win against Chelsea? Does Wenger doesn't do tactics? Is that right or wrong? Is that a myth or is there actually any truth to that? Elneny at stage left. Has he developed a new role within the Arsenal team? Took it in, fans experience, and all the transfer business. So let's kick it off. We'll start with our special guest, Nick, today. Nick, were you at the game? Did you watch the game?
Yeah. The Chelsea. I was covering the Chelsea match and typing away. I saw Dave walking past the press box at half time and after the match too, but I was too busy typing to have a chat. You mentioned tactics. I mean, it's very strange. I mean, I think what won that match, apart from a sense of deep confidence that we seem to have against Chelsea these days. I mean, if one manager, Arsene, has got his number on it, it's Antonio Conte. It was actually his tactical astuteness and his bizarrely strange, unusual willingness to make a dramatic tactical change and switch. He started with a 4-man at the back, which is probably his favoured lineup, to go with 3 at the back. I mean, I thought Chelsea slightly had the better of that first half. They didn't dominate it totally, but I thought they had the better of the first half. But when we put Elneny in the middle, but the 3 at the back, it released Monreal and Bellerin to sort of get down the flanks, stop them getting forward so much. And I think that switch really sort of swung the game completely. And it's, we all criticise him for waiting to make changes, but that was a bold move. And he said in the press conference afterwards, why he did it, that he just felt against Chelsea, he had to have some special tactics. And he's always been accused of just sending out players, say, just try as hard as you can. And, we'll be the best team. But I think this time the tactics won the match.
But did you think it was a permanent switch or because it's hard to tell, wasn't it? Because sometimes Elneny seemed to be dropping back into the 3, and then other times it was almost totally flexible. Because when he pushed forward, then Bellerin and Monreal didn't, sort of thing. It was almost like he was moving at will between sort of a deep lying midfield role and a centre back role. It was
almost like libero, right? Almost
like
a libero sort of.
I think he did say that in the press conference afterwards, if I remember rightly, that he does give them that license to be flexible, and if there's the opportunity or they feel, I mean, sometimes too much license, but the opportunity or the need to sort of move it around a bit, they can do that. So sometimes it's hard to work out what formation we're playing, isn't it? Because of the way players are moving around.
Yeah.
But I think he made that change. I think it was quite a strong tactical call by him, and this time it paid off.
Well, he said the other week, didn't Giles? I said to you before the cup final, the only way Elneny has a future at Arsenal is if we play him just sitting in front of the back 4. I didn't see him challenging any even Coquelin, as a weekly midfield player. But after not just this game, the game before as well, when he did sort of play 4-1 with Elneny just sitting, you do wonder not only whether that is a formation we can stick with. Well, people call it 4-3-3 or 4-1-4-1, but certainly for me it was a 4-1-4-1 with the wide players given a bit of license. But interesting enough, if that is a setup we go with, and Elneny sort of carved out that role, you'd almost logically say, well, that's great, but let's get an upgrade on El Neni. So it's almost like El Neni's shown it can work. Let's go and get an Inzonzi or something like that. It's a bit harsh, really. But
I agree with you, Dave. I said on Twitter this morning, watching him again last night, I thought he did really well, and it's sort of like almost created another role for us. And I'm wondering whether we can, as you say, get an upgrade for him, for somebody in that role, in that sort of liberal, that sort of 6, false 10 role, or whatever you want to call it. Max,
I think that's the future. I look at that and think, actually, that is the future. And what I mean by that is, you're absolutely right. Upgrade El Neni and get a real specialist in that position, because I think El Neni's shown enough to know how beneficial it is to have someone there. And I think in the bigger games, it's even more vital. So I think El Neni, in a way, has shown us the future, but sadly, it might not be him who's going to sort of provide the future. But then, you always need backups as well. You always need, you will have injuries, suspensions, rotations. So El Neni has got a future at the club, actually. I know Leicester were linked with him last summer, but he's shown enough that he has got a future, and you do need squad players. And then the other thing is, that's kind of release Granit Xhaka, and he's playing further forward. But for me, the future there is Aaron Ramsey will replace Granit Xhaka and play alongside Jack Wilshere. And suddenly you'll have this holding midfielder, who we don't know who it is, but an upgrade, a specialist in that position, with potentially Jack and Aaron Ramsey kind of ahead. And then, Mesut plays as in front of as the front three kind of thing. So I think we saw a glimpse of the future. I just don't think the personnel's there yet, but I think slowly, when Ramsey gets his chance there, I think suddenly we could see that change happen quite quick.
Do you think Maitland-Niles could throw his hat into that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, potentially, and he needs a chance there. He deserves a chance there, maybe. Arsene Wenger's often played, whether it's defensive players or offensive players, he's often has played them wide initially. He says it's to learn the game and learn more of the tactical side of the game. How true that is and how much it impacts, I don't know. I haven't played at the top level. Playing at Power League on a Monday night doesn't quite give me that experience. I don't know. But, we have seen it with other players. So potentially, yeah, he deserves a chance there. Whether he'll get it, I don't know. But potentially, there's a Europa League tie potentially there, but I'm not sure if he'll get it coming into the kind of the business end of the season. Those kind of chances usually are given in the League Cup early rounds and things like that. So I don't know, but he's certainly shown enough that he's a player. So I'm sure we'll see him.
He did actually do that in the pre-season, didn't he? When he was playing at centre back in the 3, he also played Maitland-Niles in the 3, which we haven't seen yet in a competitive game.
I think Niles came out. Niles did come out after that and saying that he's not a centre back. He was quite strong about that. Whereas with the left back, he's always said he's happy to play anywhere. But I do remember some quotes saying that he didn't quite enjoy the centre back experience as much.
Right.
So do you remember the cup game against Southampton last season? We played him at the base of the 3.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
So he could conceivably. He has the raw attributes, definitely.
That was him, Jeff and Ox.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think Arsene has talked about playing Maitland-Niles as a midfielder, holding midfielder as he progresses. But I'll tell you what, if we want to find someone to fill that position, I will be astonished if we sign a new player to play there in this window.
I won't be in this window.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to have to be someone from within the setup at the moment to do it. And I'd also be astonished if he, it's been one of his real big blind spots, hasn't it, for the last few years, not having a player in that position. But Coquelin did it for a while very well, but then he just went back to what he was before. I'd be surprised if he gambled on Ainsley, but
oddly, he had Gilberto who could do that, dropping in centre back. He had Alex Song who could do that, dropping in centre back. He's had players who can do it over the years.
Yeah, he's not averse to doing it, but
well, doesn't seem a natural fit right now. But
Busquets would be good.
Yeah, indeed. All right, Dave, over to you. The age-old question, depending on which side of the fence you sit, does Wenger do tactics? Some people think Wenger doesn't do tactics. In that game, he showed that he can switch during during the match?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say. My argument is not that he doesn't do tactics. My argument is he picks and chooses the games to do it. And the games when you're screaming at the television or screaming, in the stadium that he should be doing it, he doesn't. And the games when you least expect it, he suddenly does. And that's the problem. There are games. If you haven't got to cast your mind back to any sequence of away games at Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, 6, 5, 7, whatever it is, we're getting absolutely thumped because we're just doing exactly the same as we always do. That's when you get frustrated. And then we had that season where suddenly he switched it all around and we went away to Man City and we got a result. We went away to Man United in the Cup and got a result. And you think, he's finally learning. And then the following season, he just reverts to type 4-2-3-1, exactly the same. We'll play our football. So it's not that he can't do it. It's just that it just frustrates when he chooses not to do it or doesn't do it in a timely fashion. That's for me anyway. It's not a case of can't, just a case of why doesn't he do it more often?
Nick, if you look at his rivals, look at Pep. He manages all three phases of the game: the defense, the middle, and the last third. He meticulously, individually micromanages every player, tells them where to be, what to do, where the space might open up. You look at someone like Mourinho, who's fixated on the defense, doesn't really care what happens. He lets you kind of jazz it up at the front, but in defense is where he wants his players to be. He really nails that down. Pochettino, again, is another different. Pochettino and Klopp have their own philosophies, tactical philosophies that work quite well. With Wenger, what do you see as his tactical acumen, if you want?
Well, that's a good question, and it's really hard to pin down because it does seem that he's still, with these sort of rare exceptions, like Dave was saying, is still stuck on his philosophy of putting together a team of players that he thinks can play the best attacking, goal-scoring football that will just outplay any opponents on the day. Which we know that that worked well for quite a few years, but a lot of people have caught up on it. There are lots and lots of very good teams now in all positions, and I don't know. It just seems weird to say out loud that he has no tactical acumen, but he certainly doesn't focus on the defence. He doesn't build from the back in his sort of tactics, and you only have to talk to the players, the way they train, and historically the way they trained before. That there is not a lot of work done on sort of the tactics of facing particular opponents for particular games, and I think he's still, deep down, is fixed on his philosophy that if he puts together a team that works hard and attacks well and scores goals, that'd be enough. 9 times out of 10. I'm not saying that's right, but I think that's what I think he believes.
Axe, going from, so you've heard Dave and Nick's opinions on it. Where do you sit on the Wenger tactics?
I don't know. It's quite a simplistic argument, isn't it? Because it's Wenger doesn't do tactics. Well, I think every manager does tactics, but are they necessarily good tactics or are they bad tactics? In games we've lost, people may say Wenger doesn't do tactics, but actually he probably has done tactics, but they just haven't worked. And so it's a very simplistic argument. With tactics, sometimes, your tactical, your tactics will work. Sometimes they won't work. I think it's as simple as that. I know I'm saying it's a very simplistic argument. Now I'm giving you quite a simple answer, but that is what I actually believe. I'm sure even when we, went to Old Trafford and lost 8-2, I'm sure there was some sort of, I'm sure in the team talk at the night before in the hotel and on the morning of the game, there was something spoken about some sort of tactics, but it clearly just didn't work. So I think we're quick to kind of, the Wenger supporters are quick to kind of highlight it when it does work. But when it doesn't work, potentially the other side are quick to highlight that actually he hasn't got any tactics, whereas actually he has, but it just hasn't worked.
Is the question more about changing tactics in game?
Yeah,
potentially.
I suppose, yeah.
We can all have tactics before the game, as you say. Yeah. The question is, when they're not working, does he change them often enough? That's the question I would ask.
Yeah, but you could probably, I mean, it's hard to tell if there are subtle changes that we just, as a fans kind of eyes, we don't see. But from what we see, and if you were to ask my opinion, I would say I probably agree with, I think, what you're kind of presuming here, and you don't, it's not obvious, with the El Neni change, it was very obvious. Normally, if there is a change, it's not obvious to us. So, yeah.
I think also when you talk about Pep and Mourinho, and the success and the way that Man City team's been put together, his main tactic has been to go out and spend and spend and spend, and we were all the Arsenal fans were teasing the Chelsea fans on the semi-final. They said we've won it all, and we were saying you've bought it all, and it's not to say there's anything wrong with it if you've got the money.
You're not allowed to sing in the press box, Nick.
I could hear it. I was right near you. But you know what I mean? As brilliant as managers as a manager, say Guardiola is, he's just looked at where there are weaknesses in his team, and he's just strengthened it by buying a more expensive or a better player. So to the extent that it almost doesn't matter what tactics he has. I'm not saying he doesn't micromanage every position, but in fact he does micromanage every position. That's why he's so meticulously replacing with better players. And if you have better players, you will generally win football matches, whatever the tactics. I mean, we know that lesser teams can go and frustrate and eke out results and on big cup ties and so on. But if you have the best team, you'll generally win matches, and that's one of the reasons it's so frustrating, like a transfer window like this, where it all seems to be slipping past, and Arsenal will miss out on targets yet again.
Yeah, you can argue that Arsenal, have. I mean, Olivier Giroud, we upgraded. We realised, maybe realised about 5 years too late, but we realised that he's great as an option, but potentially not that top level. So we did spend 50-odd million on Lacazette. Mesut Ozil cost money. Alexis Sanchez before he went cost money. So actually our front three, we have spent a lot of money there to replace the sort of Rosickis and the Girouds of the world kind of thing. So, I think it's, I don't think we can pretend that we haven't either.
Going on to the transfer business then, we've seen Alexis go out and Mkhitaryan come in. Your initial feeling, Axe, were you happy with the deal?
I think,
or not?
I think what, when the deal sort of went through and the weekend before, and that sort of week between Bournemouth and Palace, when, things were happening kind of behind the scenes, I think it was sold to fans a little bit as, Sanchez will go, Mkhitaryan will come in, and hopefully Aubameyang will come in. So we kind of saw it as a bit of a package, even though, the Mkhitaryan Sanchez was a straight swap. We kind of looked at it as Aubameyang kind of comes in and the two of them replace Alexis Sanchez, And it's if Aubameyang doesn't come in, then you do have to question that. Was that a bit of PR there just to manage the Alexis Sanchez swap? That's maybe thinking a bit.
Do you think two players have to come in to replace Alexis?
Yes, I think with his numbers, goals and his assists since he's been here, unless you find a similar player to him, I think two have to come in. Yes, I don't think Mkhitaryan's a player to directly replace Alexis Sanchez, but I think Mkhitaryan will be a good player here, and I've remember him at Dortmund and rated him. But yeah, no, I do believe two players need to come in to replace someone like Alexis Sanchez because of what he had done in terms of his numbers.
I tell you what,
it's Walcott and Sanchez. Let's not.
Well, Walcott and Sanchez, yeah. I mean, I've said it a few times that last year Sanchez 20 goals, Walcott 20, well, it was 19, Giroud around 20 goals. Who neither of them now are Giroud still here, but hasn't been playing much. That's 60 goals we have to replace. Lacazette's got 8 or 9, so there's about 50 goals there that we have to kind of replace, on average. So I think you do need two players, definitely.
The reason why sorry, Nick, I don't disagree with you. The reason why I ask is because people say, well, we're basing Alexis' output really on last season's goals. And if you look back at Mkhitaryan's last good season, which is his final season at Dortmund, he scored something like 25 and got...
Alexis Sanchez has never had a season like 15, 16 for Mkhitaryan in his whole career.
So you see where I'm going with this then, Dave. I mean, do you think that we do need two players to come into? Do you think Aubameyang is essential to come in as well as Mkhitaryan to replace?
Well, if he does, Lacazette won't play. It's that simple. I mean, I'm sorry. It's not. You say. I know what you're going to say, Nick. But if you're honestly saying we're going to play 4-2-3-1 with Ozil, Lacazette, Mkhitaryan behind Aubameyang, and I just can't see that happening. So it's 2 from 3. I mean, if Aubameyang comes in, Lacazette will be first change or play wide first change. He won't be first choice. I'm not saying I've got an issue with that, but that's what I believe, because Aubameyang is simply better.
Yeah, but he'll have to play them both together. He'll have to play two up front, which I think is something he's been wanting to do for years and years. And if he's got those two, he's going to have to. I don't think he will.
I can't see. Nick, you had Giroud and Walcott. You had Giroud and Podolski. He didn't play two up front. You've had Lacazette and Sanchez. He hasn't played two up front apart from 5 or 10 minutes here. You say he's wanted to do it for years. He's never done it. Well, okay. Well, I just think that if he signs them, then that's what he will have to do, is to play them together. For me, I think Mkhitaryan is this is going to be very out there, but right now he's an upgrade on Alexis Sanchez. Because Alexis Sanchez, none of us saw it coming. We all said he'd give 100%, and I'm sure he did, but his 100% was different this year. His focus wasn't there. He wasn't playing for the team. Mkhitaryan is an out-and-out team footballer, and his output, when he's happy, is up there. So if we are going to play with two behind the striker, as we have been with three at the back, Mkhitaryan Ozil will play. And if we're going to play three, then Mkhitaryan Ozil will still play with one other. I just can't see a Mkhitaryan not starting. And I think, from what I gather, speaking to people, reading people who know more about German football than I am, he's the sort of player who when he's happy, the output's astonishing. He has not been happy for 18 months at Man United. Apparently his sister was at the training ground with him the first day, does a lot of his personal affairs, telling everybody who cared to listen that he absolutely hates Mourinho. He hated being at Man United. He couldn't wait to get to Arsenal. So all this media stuff about, Alexis is definitely going, they need to convince Mkhitaryan. It was absolute rubbish. He could not wait to get to Arsenal. So I can't wait to see him. I mean, I think he's going to be fantastic for us.
That was the agent holding that all up, wasn't it? Mkhitaryan would have walked to Arsenal as soon as the offer was made. I think that was
100%
quite well established. But the other thing, just to add to that, we're talking about a future sort of Arsenal world where Mesut Ozil is still an Arsenal player beyond the end of this season. And if there's a chance to get someone in now, ahead of the end of the season, I know at Arsenal's press conference this morning, which I wasn't well enough to attend, he was again sort of trying to give some sort of comfort. That he senses that Mesut is prepared to sign, but I'd be surprised if he did. And if he's going to sign, why keep dragging it out? I think if we don't sign Aubameyang, after the public display that we've made to try and get him with Gazidis and Mislintat pictured in Dortmund, it's going to be a hell of an embarrassment. I don't know, whenever people are listening to this, it's obviously going to go one of three ways. We're either going to sign him and pay over the odds because we're putting ourselves in such a position where we sort of have to keep bidding until we get him, because this is supposed to be the new dream transfer team, although I don't know what Ivan Gazidis has got to do with that. And if we don't get him, it'd be very, very, very embarrassing. Although we've been happily embarrassed before in the past. I think it will just drag out, and we'll probably pay over the odds. Although, having said that, what does over the odds mean these days? We've all got every club's got more money than they know what to do with it. And
60 million is only over the odds because of his age. He's certainly not over the odds on what he's going to do for the next 2 seasons if he comes, on his ability and what he can give us. But,
Well, and also 60 million outlay here, but if you do make it into the Champions League, then, if you do sort of sneak into fourth position, then that's worth about 40 million to us anyway, 30 million to us anyway, so you actually make some of that back. But I was just going to say about that sort of public thing. I think it's a big moment for Arsenal, actually. To have that sort of Ivan Gazidis and the picture that outside Dortmund airport or the training, wherever it was, if it was outside Dortmund's ground. But that's a massive thing. For me, that was a bit of PR saying that, there is a bit of a change here. There is a new team involved. We are doing things differently. And if they don't come back with the player, then I just think that's going to be ridiculous. I'm sure there was a back way out of the airport, or there's a back way into the ground, or
there seems to be a lot of parking spaces as well.
Well, exactly, and if they didn't want to be seen, they wouldn't have been seen. Put it that way. But
I think the only hold up is Giroud doesn't want to be part of the deal. Whether that's Giroud himself or whether Wenger's. Yeah. This is very strange if Wenger stuck his oar in at the last minute and said, I don't want Giroud to be part of the deal, because that would really annoy me if that's the case.
Yeah.
My only issue with letting Giroud go is obviously if Aubameyang comes in, we can't use him in the Europa League because he's cup tied. And secondly, we've got no backup. If Lacazette goes lame,
yeah, I was going to say.
If Lacazette goes lame during that cup run, we've got no one. I mean, I know people like Welbeck and Eddie, obviously, but I don't see them as anything near as sort of a similar kind of level to what Lacazette brings. Also, I wanted to go back to Nick's point about him saying we could play them both up front. Do you remember, Dave and Axe? Wenger really tried hard to get Alexis to play nearer, closer to Lacazette.
I was going to say that, but then the conversation moved on. But against Chelsea in that second half at home, it was visible Alexis playing a lot closer to Lacazette, and it looked like a 2 at times. I think there was another incident where that happened as well. So,
and he said that he's been trying to get Alexis to play closer to Lacazette. So in my mind, I'm thinking he thinks Lacazette needs a partner. He needs somebody up there to help him. So maybe, as Nick was saying and you're saying, Axe, maybe that could be the thinking. Get Aubameyang. It might not be an obvious partnership, but they're intelligent and they're experienced enough to make it work, aren't they? Really?
Yeah.
Well, you could play an out-and-out 4-3-3 because Aubameyang certainly played wide for Dortmund.
But he wasn't good enough. I mean, I've heard that he wasn't very. It was only when they switched him up the top that he actually started to come to his own.
It's a good problem to have, anyway.
It is a good problem.
So.
Could be 3-5-2. Could be 3-5-2.
Yeah, could be. Ozil then. What's going on, Dave? What's your feeling in your waters?
I think the deal's already agreed and it'll be announced imminently. I think.
Axe.
I don't know. I mean, what Nick said about Arsene Wenger's press conference, I kind of saw that live, and he was more optimistic. He obviously did say there was nothing to be announced and stuff like that, but it does seem like they're more optimistic, kind of compared to the summer sort of thing. So, I think there's a chance. I just think if I was Mesut Ozil, I would just be thinking, do I sort of wait to see where Arsenal finish up this season? Are they going to be playing in the Champions League? Because at his age, it's 29 or so. It'll be only that you want to be playing at the elite levels, and that's the Champions League. So, but I'm a bit more optimistic.
Nick, haters would have been at the press conference this morning. What's the feedback?
Yeah, well, it was an interesting press conference because the way these. As I say, I wasn't there. My colleague had to go to me this morning. But the way these press conferences work, you have different sections. So the first 15 minutes roughly will be for broadcasts, which is the one that goes out live on Sky and Arsenal website, Facebook, whatever. And that gets released into the ether and people are tweeting it relentlessly as it's going on. Then after that, he will do a separate section of what we call the dailies, the daily newspapers, which is then embargoed, so it can't come out until the next day's papers or later on tonight. And then even a third section sometimes for Sunday newspapers if there's a game which is happening on Sunday or the Monday or further ahead, like this Swansea match. So it was a strange sort of little decision to have a press conference for a match that's on Tuesday on a Friday. I thought, well, we all thought that in the press side of things. Anyway, when it came to the end of the broadcast, normally people go up to his sort of little desk there.
He walked away, didn't he?
He walked away, yeah. And which was very strange. Sort of left a lot of people. I mean, there weren't as many people there as usual from what I told. But my colleague there was telling me, I'm just trying to look for his message now, that he was generally upset with the media, for want of a better word, about a story which I must admit I haven't seen. But apparently he was accused of taunting Pochettino for not winning as many cups as him or something like that, which he thinks has been twisted. And do you know the story I mean?
Yeah, I've heard it. Apparently, Pochettino came out yesterday and said that he should mind his own business or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it was put to him that Wenger's been sort of winding him up for not winning. So Wenger was annoyed at the Wenger was annoyed the media saying to Poch he was having a dig at Tottenham for not being in a final for 25 years, which he didn't do as far as I'm aware.
I actually
and that was
I looked at the quotes and at no stage did Wenger actually mention the team. We all thought he meant Spurs and maybe a bit of Liverpool, but he never actually mentioned the team, and that's what I mean. As I said, I sort of watched it live, and he did say he was upset. I think he used the word upset actually, and said he was quite disappointed that it's been changed a little bit, and it's not quite what he said. And then he was upset that the media have then gone to Pochettino and have asked him that, because he was quite clear in saying that he respects Pochettino or something like that, and he wasn't giving any blame to Pochettino and he knew what Pochettino had said, by the way, because he came out and said that, Pochettino is right. I do need to concentrate on Arsenal, or I am concentrating on Arsenal, but he did kind of semi-accuse the media of taking his thing, and then it reminded me very much of the specialist in failure thing. Someone's asked Arsene Wenger, Sky have asked Arsene Wenger that, why is everyone not wanting, not saying they're in the title race. He says because they're maybe afraid of losing, and then they go to Mourinho and said, Arsene Wenger has said, you're afraid of losing. What do you say about that? And then it seemed very similar to that, and I think that's what he was upset about. Yeah, you're right.
You need to clarify, to be fair, because Pochettino is only responsible for the last 4 years of failure, not the whole 25. The previous 21 were totally someone else. That's fair enough, isn't it?
I thought it's 57 years, isn't it?
Speaking about years, you and Dave, Nick, are fans of a certain vintage. If I can say that, like fine wine. Nick, you lived the ultimate Arsenal fan experience. You were there in the Winners' Club the night that the '89 team made their way back from winning the title at Anfield. We saw the video. You and your friends, waxed lyrical about it. We were all envious. We were all jealous and whatnot.
Star of the '89 movie, Nick Callow.
And the DJ in the after party as well.
Yes, that was pretty good, wasn't it?
A very good DJ too, yeah.
Yeah. I'm surprised you two can remember much about it, to be honest.
To my eternal excitement, Alan Smith now calls me, he says, all right, DJ. Which,
there you go.
It gives you a real buzz. Fantastic, yeah. So, so we're talking memories of '89, or what are we talking about?
Just really, me and Akhil have been talking recently about the apathy and disillusionment amongst the Arsenal fans, especially the away guys. You used to follow Arsenal up and down in the 80s, let's say, during the 90s, as well as Dave. You guys, during that Terry Neal period, or towards the end of that Terry Neal period, what was it like? I mean, can you relate to? Does it relate to what's happening now in terms of the Arsenal fan base and the feelings?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, the end of the Terry Neal period was diabolical. The end of the George Graham period was diabolical. I mean, George sort of saved himself with cup wins, a bit like Arsene has actually in recent years. But the basis, when Terry Neal came in, he was sort of fighting to emulate the 71 double team. And when George started winning trophies, it sort of came out of the blue. The levels of expectation was so low. I mean, you went to and you go to games because you support the team, and that's one of the things that's still, I guess it's because of my age and sort of seeing so many ups and downs, that when people get so upset now at finishing fourth or third and winning FA Cups as being a sort of unsuccessful season, it just baffles me, to be honest with you, because maybe I think I've been a bit spoilt, and I just at that semi-final against Chelsea, I was thinking back to other sort of League Cup semi-finals, and if I had to rank my top sort of 10 Arsenal experiences, the semi-finals plural against Tottenham in '87, which was two-legged, and then went to a replay at White Hart Lane when Ian Anderson scored, and it was just, I mean, that was one of the best nights of my Arsenal supporting career, life.
And the final against Liverpool was pretty.
And the final against Liverpool, yeah, Charlie Nicholas. I don't know what you think, Dave, but the quest was to always win the league. The quest was to always win the league, and it still is today.
The team was bleak in that time, but the experience of going to the ground, standing up, not rather than sitting down, singing for ages before the game, it was a totally different experience. Unless you went back to that, you can't replicate it, because now, and I'm guilty of it, you've got your ticket, you turn up 3 minutes before kickoff. Whereas back in the day, when I was
3 minutes before kickoff, you turn up 5 minutes after kickoff.
bit of slack either way. But I used to turn up. I tell you, when I was 14, I would be sat on the North Bank by 1 o'clock.
Because you weren't old enough to drink.
No, but I sat there eating peanuts, waiting because I wanted to be right in the middle with all the sort of 6 foot. I mean, I'm short now, not relative to Axe, obviously, but I'm short. But I was, I couldn't do anything. I would stand in the middle of the North Bank. I never saw a goal go in. I saw all the goals going the clock in, but I didn't care because I wanted to be in with the atmosphere and the singing and the sort of all these older guys who were just amazing to me. None of that can ever be replicated because it's a totally different game. It's so sanitised. And it's just entirely different. So even though we had a team with, Brian Talbot and, what was that Welsh guy? Peter Nicholas. Peter Nicholas and Brian Talbot as our central midfield. We had Johnny Hollins at right back, There were bright spots, but he was trying to wedge Mariner, Woodcock and Nicholas into the same team. I mean, it was all bonkers. He just signed old players, but it didn't matter because you went there half hour before the game and you sang their names. It was just you were part of it and you related to them because they weren't earning ridiculous money. So it's very hard to compare. I mean, the football we've seen under Wenger, I've never seen anything like it. But the experience as a fan on the terraces was miles better in the 80s and 90s. Miles better.
I was talking, not that season when we lost 8-2 at Man United, which you mentioned earlier. I remember being in a pub one night talking to I hadn't met this guy before, an Arsenal fan. We're talking. I said, God, it's a nightmare, isn't it now? He goes, no, because you know what? I'm absolutely loving it. He goes, this is like the Arsenal of my childhood. When people say they want their Arsenal back, it depends what sort of vintage they come from and what Arsenal is. He said, now I'm going to games. I don't know if we're going to win or lose. It's really, really exciting again. And, as much as I want to win every match and Wenger, this, that and the other, he goes, I'm actually really enjoying this season. That was the 8-2 season. I wouldn't say, I don't know if he still is now, and I'm certainly not enjoying seeing Arsenal being out of contention for the league title by sort of September or even before the season started this season. But it's all about levels of expectation in a way, and Wenger's become a complete victim of his own success. Whereas George Graham used to get compared to Bertie Mee or Terry Neal or whatever, Arsene Wenger gets compared to himself. You're not Arsene Wenger says he's not as good as Arsene Wenger. So I think the away experience is not as fun as it was now. There's so much bitterness and anger amongst our fans now. It seems to me, and sort of a lack of patience. And I understand that, especially when we're paying so much ridiculous money for these tickets. I think that would make a big difference if they cut the ticket price in half, for example. But it sort of surprises me sometimes when I'm not working. I do go to a game these days, away games in particular, just how angry everyone is.
Can I ask you both before I quickly move on to other issues? Do you feel it's been worth it moving from Highbury to the Emirates Stadium? Nick, I'll start with you then, Dave.
That's a big question. Certainly, the romantic prefers Highbury for the atmosphere and, well, let's say the lack of facilities. But I mean, the overpriced food and the sort of soulless sort of nature of the new ground doesn't replace the character and I guess it's the memories of Highbury. We were going to be competing with I can't remember, whatever the famous quote was, we'll be dining from the top table of European football and outspending everyone. Well, we've got all the money. And even last week before the Chelsea game, Arsene was saying, we can't spend the money for these players because we're still paying for the old stadium. Well, I thought that story was dead and buried a year or two ago. I think if you look around, football, if you watch the '89 film, one of the overriding sort of feelings and thoughts when I've watched it with people younger than myself, they said, God, was that what it was like going to football? I said, yeah. All that people falling on top of each other and standing, and that's what it was like. And so we had to move on from all-seater stadiums, and we had to move on from Highbury because we needed a bigger ground, and we couldn't get a bigger ground at Highbury. So in that respect, I think we did. I hate the fact that we price so many genuine fans out of being able to go and watch the team on a regular basis. I think that's my main gripe about the new stadium. It was supposed to be cheaper, wasn't it?
I think 2 points, because I know we're short of time, but I would say firstly, I agree with most of what Nick said, but I do feel an immense sense of pride when I look at our stadium compared to other stadiums around the world. You know, I would say that I definitely feel wow. There's a wow factor to the Emirates. But the other point is what Nick said is true. It's the memories. So our memories at the moment of the Emirates are it rocking when we beat Barcelona, which meant nothing. It rocking when we beat Bayern Munich, which meant nothing. And basically victories over Tottenham. They are our current memories, the 5-2s and so forth. What we need, and you can't get this from an FA Cup, is to win a league in the Emirates Stadium. We win the Premierships in the Emirates Stadium, the whole sense of what the Emirates is then changes, because all the things around the Emirates are about things we did when we were a Highbury. So we need to win that first league title in the Emirates, then it all changes.
Yeah,
interesting.
That's a good point.
Good point. Axe, talking about ticketing, let's take it back to the cup final.
Yeah.
Lots of people are talking about, can they get tickets? Is it fair? Is the system fair? It's always going to happen. Every season we get to a cup final, this question always comes about. Yeah. What's your thoughts and feelings on that?
Just before I get on to that, I mean, what Nick said about pricing kind of fans out, that's my pet subject. That's, I've asked that question at about 6 AGMs in a row, where we're always trying to contact Arsenal and we're trying to talk to Ivan Gazidis about ticket pricing. Because that kind of move from Highbury to the Emirates, I mean, you look at most of the other clubs all trying to get new grounds, all wanting bigger capacity grounds, more kind of corporate sections, because there's obviously a big revenue stream there. I think, maybe if in the late 90s or whenever it was, then discussions about a new stadium happened, if we knew that how TV kind of broadcasting was going to go, we might have thought twice, I don't know, but at the time, it was the right thing. You get better commercial deals, in theory. And yeah, I definitely think it kind of had to happen. Would we have signed a Mesut Ozil? Would we have spent 42 million on a Mesut Ozil in 2013 if we were still at Highbury? We don't know, but it's certainly less likely, I would say. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the League Cup, it's the League Cup for me is quite an interesting one, because obviously it's for the final, the policy is on loyalty. It goes with away scheme members, then it goes to season ticket holders with 3 points. So that's 3 away games over a couple of years. Then it goes to normal season ticket holders in the form of a ballot. And then obviously whoever's kind of left, silver and red members, which generally, for European Cup finals, if we were to get to one, for the FA Cup, I kind of think that does make sense. I think that's quite fair. Where it's slightly different for the League Cup for me is because the League Cup's not a part of a season ticket and it's not a part of the away scheme. So you do get sort of different fans going to that. I can't remember what our kind of capacity or what the attendance was at Doncaster, but what was it, around 30 maybe thousand, 35 maybe thousand. So
it's pretty sparse.
Yeah. So it for me, that's quite different. I do feel for people that potentially, have been priced out. So you got that Nick's comment about being priced out. Go to every round in the League Cup, but then can't go to a final. And I kind of get the argument about, season ticket holders, because I'm one of them that front load cash at the start of the season, spend a lot of money to go into Europe and all the kind of domestic away games. So I'm one of them. I get that. But I do feel sorry for people that potentially go to every round. And, I kind of get it. What's the fairest way? I don't know, but I have a lot of sympathy there.
Well, I think Dave will agree. The fairest way is going back to the old system when you had to get a voucher from every programme and stick it and then queue up from the ground about 4 o'clock in the morning to get a ticket, whether you had a season ticket or not.
Yeah. I'm after the semi-final to get the ticket for the Luton 88 final. It was after we'd lost 1-0 at home to Everton, and I had to queue for about an hour after the game. Just literally as a queue to buy a ticket at the box office at Highbury. It was
Memories.
I think it just, if we had data available and we could see, actually group all fans together, whether you're season ticket holders or hold a membership, see who's gone to every single round and just see what that number is. If that number's only sort of 20,000 and stuff, there's an argument of potentially giving those people a priority to get a ticket than, the 1,000 away scheme members and then season ticket holders with maybe 5 points instead of 3. Just because.
Well, the problem with the whole system is you don't know who's been, just because their membership's been used, you don't know, do you?
Well, that's true. I mean, that's true. It's hard but that's probably the only way you could potentially.
That's why I've only got 6 credits on my season ticket. Yeah. Not because I don't want to go to away games, because I can't buy tickets for away games, because loads of people who've got 50 away credits buy tickets and then give them to their mates or sell them on Twitter. That's the situation. Yeah. And we all know that's the situation.
And that is a problem.
So how many away season ticket holders are there, roughly?
It's about 1,200.
Is that all?
I think so, yeah. It's about 1,200. It's not. So, I mean, generally they'll get priority to every away game. The only place that was a problem was Sutton last year, where there was a ballot.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally that's how many there are.
Okay, cool, Leo. Just really quickly before we all have to go, Dave. Assuming there's no more incomings before Tuesday, you're about to write your blog on Tuesday morning. Where does Mkhitaryan fit into the starting 11 for the Swansea game?
I think we've tried a few people there. I think if Nick's right, and I think he probably is. I think we will play 4 at the back. I think having Koscielny fit with Mustafi and Monreal and Bellerin, it feels like our strongest back line.
Yeah,
so if we're going to go with 4, I think Mkhitaryan will play on the right of the 3.
Is he coming through Iwobi?
So 4-2-3-1. I think he'll play on the right. And Ozil in the middle. And at this stage, either Iwobi or Welbeck on the left, I guess. If that was the formation.
Nick, does he start in your 11?
Yes, he's got to start. Yeah, I can't see any reason why not to play him, unless he's not fit. And there's always a danger you might bring him off the bench. I'm just trying to think of the team now. My mind's gone.
Sorry, go back while you're thinking. I would say if we stick with this 4-1-4-1, I still think he plays right, but he plays right of the 4.
Sorry, go on, Nick. Go on.
I can say, watching that first half against Chelsea, I was thinking I'd get Iwobi off and get Mkhitaryan on straight away.
Yeah. Is Iwobi the 4 guy in your formation?
It's not going to be Mesut Ozil, is it? So I think you're the answer to that. I think yes. Simple.
Simple as. All right, cool. Quick predictions, Axe.
I think we have to be careful. They beat Liverpool Monday night, so but yeah, you hope that we'll just have a. It does feel like we're a little bit free of Alexis Sanchez, and hopefully Mkhitaryan will give us a bit of a boost. So
yes,
potentially Aubameyang could be in. So let's go 3-0 Arsenal.
Cool.
Actually, that means Petr Cech gets his clean sheet record, which I just don't think is ever going to happen. So let's go 3-1.
All right, Nick.
Yeah. Well, I was going to go 2-1. To be honest, I'm dreading it. It's one of those matches that you dread. Coming off a match like Chelsea, when you think, it's all suddenly all going right and so on, and it's the classic one where we slip back into old ways, and Swansea are fighting for their lives, and they picked up that result against Liverpool, like you said. I think we should have enough to. Well, if we don't have enough to get over the line, I'll be gutted. But
might as well give up.
I'm going to go. Might as well. Yeah. Well, how many times you said that? I'm going to go 2-1 Arsenal.
Cool. And Dave.
2-0 Arsenal, and Ramsey will start and Xhaka won't. There's my prediction.
There you go. Good stuff. All right. So I want to thank all my colleagues today. I want to thank Dave. Catch Dave at Gooner Dave 66. Thank you, Dave, very much.
Thank you, Giles.
We will also thank Akhil. We catch him at 10 Akhil on Twitter. Thank you very much, Akhil.
No problem.
And special thanks to Nick. You can catch him at Stroller Nick. You can catch him he works out of the Haters Network. Yes. And hopefully we'll see you again back on the podcast in not too distant future. So thank you for coming on, Nick.
Lovely.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah. I was right to be delighted.
You were.
Good man. All right, so I've been your host, Giles. Catch me at ASC_Giles. It's been a good run.
This week,
yes. Catch us on all the platforms. Do subscribe, do like, do comment, do rate, do whatever you want to do. Just give us some sort of props. All right, that's been a good Ramble podcast. I've been your host, Giles. Thank you, and up your Arsenal.
Up the Arsenal.
Up the Arsenal.
This episode of the Gooner Ramble is sponsored by the new sporting betting app called Bookie. That's BOOKEE. Sign up using the promo code podcast, deposit and bet £10 in multiple bets for a free £10 bet. Please bet responsibly.